allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Allen? Darnell?
Here.
DePalma? Here. Cordella?
Here.
Marshall?
Here.
Rumble?
Here.
Thurman?
Here. Okay, now we need to approve our agenda. I have a couple of things I'd like to change or add to the agenda. So the first thing would be under reports, a legislative update from Melissa Slotkin's office, from Laura Murphy.
What's the heading again?
Under reports,
I know, but I mean, what's the,
legislative update from Melissa Slotkin's office.
which is who? The building department, the trustee? the
No, we're
city?
gonna add it, we're adding it, Chris.
Oh. I see. Good.
It's just Geo.
It's a new one,
Yes.
new report.
A new report.
Okay.
And then also, on our agenda, under new business, I'd like to add a closed session to discuss attorney opinion on the text of proposed revocation in the Flat Rock versus Charter Township of Brandon litigation.
That E, you need to like,
That will have to be A, that'll have to be in the beginning, yeah.
The A of new business or B?
A of
Want to
new-
put it
A of
at the top
new
of the
business.
agenda?
No, just A of new business.
and can you repeat that again, please? This is a closed session?
Yes, just right, cool.
We're gonna go into a closed session?
Yes.
We just
Well, when you got an email from the attorneys, he suggested that perhaps we might want to go into closed session, so then I asked the other attorney, should we put it on the agenda or just decide when we get to that business? So it was suggested that we should put it on the agenda.
So you're willing to leave this?
When did the email come? When did you get the email, Kathy? When did you get asked to do that?
I didn't get it. I'm suggesting that we do that. I got the email just before I sent it to you.
I didn't get the email, that's why I'm asking. I didn't get the email because it doesn't come to my phone, it only goes to my Outlook, so I don't know what should. When did you send the email?
Last Friday. Thursday?
I got it. It was the, I can't remember the title of it, or I had it, it was basically confidential.
Status report.
Yeah.
Oh, so it wasn't an email today asking us to do
No,
closed session, it was just an email regarding this. I got
That was your
that.
last status report.
Sorry. I thought you meant an email today.
Does anybody else have any amendments or suggestions for the agenda? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I'll make that enough.
Motion
I'll make a motion as revised.
as amended.
Yes, amended.
Minutes. All right, I have a motion by Clerk Allen, and it is seconded by Trustee Marshall to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The agenda has been approved as amended. So, next we have reports, and we'll go ahead and start out with our legislative update from Melissa Slotkin's office, and we have Laura Murphy here. Laura, if you wouldn't mind standing up to the podium.
Sure, thank you.
Evening. Thank you for amending the agenda. I'm happy to be here. We're supposed to clean up to Brandon. And as far as legislative report, we have two bills that have progressed. As you may be aware, there's been little movement on the Senate side of Congress. We have the representative introduced the Real-Time Benefits Act, so that would affect people enroll on Medicare Part D, where their doctor will be able to give them real-time prices on prescription drugs that they're prescribed. And also the Coder Act, which updates the way that the Department of Defense procures their software. So taking it out of the Stone Age and bringing it up more to modern times. And to be able to move faster when things need updated and changed and security improves. So those are the two big things. I'd be happy to email you a more comprehensive list, but she's been very busy. And I also want to let you know that we do have an office here in Oakland County. We're in Rochester Hills on Livernois that is getting torn up right now. So we're right by Rochester High School. Our office is open to constituents for appointments and meetings Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, noon to 5. So if you are in the Rochester Hills area and would like to stop in, we're staffed during those hours. If you need a special appointment at another time, we can make those arrangements.
Well, what was the phone number for that?
The phone number, you should probably call our Lansing office, which I have their own phone number. But I would be happy to give you a card. And,
Okay.
yeah, make sure you have it. Thank you for the notes. Yeah, I don't usually give it. It's not my number. So, but that's
Do you
probably
have the address of where the office is at?
445
Yeah.
South Livernois,
Okay.
Rochester Hills, and that's Suite 316.
Suite 316. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, and thank you.
I do have a question on those acts that were introduced. Where are they as far as?
The real-time benefits was introduced June 21st, so right now it's introduced. The Coder Act actually made it, she is on the Armed Services and Homeland Security Committees, and that was through, I believe, the Armed Services Committee. And that actually came out of committee, so it's moving along. It actually got attached to the defense spending bill, so, yeah. So I think that one is moving.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, we also have our monthly treasury report, our general ledger report, along with our designated report, our reconciliation report, and our building department report. We have a slow start to our new builds, but activity is picking up, just so everyone knows. We have our recreation report, our Edna Burton Senior Center report. Oh, sorry, Fred.
I always have something to say.
Okay.
May I
Our
approach?
Parks and Recreation report. Just reading aloud.
He got a sad look on his face, and I'm like, oh.
I always have something to say. Well, anyways, as the director of the Parks and Rec Department, I am pleased to be surrounded by some really good employees. You know, from Kara to my staff that takes care of the park, to all the coaches that we have running as site directors or coaching the children of this community. So I'm very blessed with that this year. And site director's been awesome. We haven't had any complaints this year. First, I got more than that one. Anyways, to the report, one thing I just want to mention on here was the movie night was superior than ever before, and it had a lot to do with the weather, of course, and the great sponsorships that we received. We did send out thank you letters to them and contact citizens as well. Put something in the editorial. And thanks, Kathy Thurman, for your help out on site. The tree library, we did have a couple of tree huggers that wanted to take the tour. And, it was fun. Now we go down to where HRC, the last item. We had a great, really good park subcommittee meeting that Friday, and it really proved to me that it takes more than just a committee or more than just one guy having this dream of making the park finished there. With Dana and Kathy and Jason, we really put our heads together. We had a guest, Roger Engel, and we came up with a plan. Then Kathy and I went down to HRC, met with Albert, the engineer, and the plan is going to come to us, so focus on to get the project started and finished this year. Now the plan consists of just half the project, basically. We're going to take half that acreage, condense it down to the south side, and build our baseball fields, volleyball, and basketball courts. First item going out for bid is the stump and tree removal. The second item going for bid will be disking the property so the soil is easy to work with. We're going to do our own brush hog. We got a tractor donated, so we can actually use that as in-kind service towards the grant, the value of it. And then once we get that prints, we'll sit down with the park subcommittee once again, make sure it's what we want, and then move forward. That's your update. Any questions, anybody? One last thing is that we are starting to focus on September Fest. I do have to attend the village council meeting tomorrow night. They have new construction renovation on the Michigan State Credit Union, and it's going to be right during September Fest. So they want me there to find out, or to at least be informed of what's going on. And I'm going to ask them not to have construction going on September 28th. So hopefully they oblige with that. Other than that, I'm going to pull some Lions Club members, Lieutenant Glover, Fire Chief, Supervisor, DPW, and CERT team, probably within the next 2 weeks, and organize this for the 30th year. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
The building is being renovated, is being expanded, what's going on with
I'll
Michigan State?
find out tomorrow night.
Okay, so you don't know.
I don't know. All I know, there's construction going on, and there could be street becomes a 1 lane or something. We'll see what happens. I'll know more tomorrow.
Actually, Fred, that man who's working on it emailed me and I sent it to you because he wants to talk to the recreation director about it.
It's
So it'll be
Granger
working.
Construction, and Liz contacted me from the village as well. We did have a visit with the DNR, I forgot to mention that. The visit is in the report, but the good thing about the whole deal was Dan Lord, who's the district manager, wanted to come to Brandon Township to take a look at this park. I know him for years. We've been to talk with the DNR. Even though we didn't get that grant last year, we came real close, and he was very pleased with the park, and we're looking for, it's all about that points, but he gets to sign the final signature. So. Anything else?
And you said September Fest was the 28th?
Yes.
Okay.
The citizen had it wrong last week, we got it right this week.
That's why I was
It's
verifying.
always the 4th Saturday, because once in a while, there's a 5th Saturday in the year spans. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, Fran.
Okay, Fred.
Okay, so we have no CDBG report tonight, but we'll move right on to our trustees' report.
I have a question on that, and just because I have to ask, how's the kitchen going?
That's in my
Good
report.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was part of this. Okay, sorry.
I think if you have to do bills, we paid a big bill, but no, we're not done.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so trustees' report, we'll start with Chris.
We did have a planning commission meeting on the 25th, and it was basically, we are starting the process to redo or not redo, but update the overall master plan for the township. And according to, I think it's Doug
Carlisle Workman.
Yeah, Carlisle Waterman. I guess it's a fairly lengthy process. We went through step 1 on the 25th, and I guess this is going to be going quite a while. We're going to update the entire plan. Because I guess the last time that was done was 2009, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so I got,
That was the last time here. Yeah, it was redone 5 years ago. But 2009 was big.
yeah, the big one, yeah, that's what I meant by that.
Any news on Taco Bell? 'Cause it's nice out there now and
We,
I don't see anything definite.
that's a very good question. We, several of the committee members, planning commission members, basically asked that very question. And we were told that Taco Bell is having a hard time, I guess, getting a contract.
I have an update
You have an
that I just got today, so
Okay.
you all know.
There you go.
They were having trouble with the contracted costs that they were getting in from their bids. So right now, Taco Bell is officially on hold. Oh, gosh. So I don't know.
Yeah, I see.
Well, it seems like that with all the contracted
Yeah,
stuff right
it's
now.
all really high.
Yeah, they didn't have a kitchen.
Or
So,
maybe
yeah,
the driveway. or
They
something.
told us today that we got news that the project is officially on hold.
Kids. That's what keeps asking me, our kids.
Okay, Bob.
The only thing I didn't come through the road committee, but I have noticed that they've started detouring traffic from Sashabaw to Sherwood, to Perry Lake, to the Granger. And I've noticed a considerable increase in traffic on those roads. That's it.
Dave?
Okay, let's see. First off, I attended the food truck rally that was on June 20th, right? I think that was the date. So I just wanted to thank everybody who was involved in doing that. We had a good time, even though it was a little wet before and cold, but we still had a good time. And then we had a meeting, but after the meeting, my husband and kids went to the old mill for the railway, to learn about the railway, and they said they really enjoyed that. Let's see, Parks and Rec subcommittee met, but Fred gave an update, so we're meeting on the park and trying to get things moving. Sad that we didn't make it to movie night. And retirement oversight committee meeting, we didn't have a meeting, but we did get our actuarial report, and the report did get to the state on where we stood on our percents with funding. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
Yep, I just want to wish everybody a happy 4th, and looking forward to the fireworks Wednesday night and the food truck along with that as well down at the high school, so I will be out at all of those. That's it.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to our treasurer.
Well, summer's here, finally. But with that comes the summer tax season. The tax statements were mailed out. You should have them in your little hand if you do not have an escrow account. If you have an escrow account, it goes to your bank. If you do not have an escrow account and you did not get the tax bill, call us and we'll send you another one. I know you'd be so happy to get them. If you have any questions, call our office and enjoy the season because it doesn't last long.
Hey Terry, I got a question about that. If you have an escrow account, the bill goes to the mortgage company.
Correct.
What if you want one yourself?
Yeah,
just
you
for
can
your
come and
own?
ask for one.
I can call, or can I get permanently put on a list to get a copy of that?
No.
I have to call every time?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, clerk's report.
Okay, let's just get right to the chase. Thank you for everybody coming tonight, really. It's nice to see people out here that come in person. So the kitchen over at the senior center is being used. It's 99% done. And it should be done absolutely, I promise, this month, no matter what. There's like 2 items left, so let's just call it done. It's been a very long project, and I'm grateful it's done. The senior center did purchase a new shed, and we got rid of the old 20-year-old wooden shed that was falling apart, and we now have a nice resin shed that should last 40, 50 years. We are starting, we'll be putting bids out for new doors and windows at the senior center. And hopefully, maybe we can put an end date for the contractor. It has to be within a year's time or something, to try and get our processes worked out sooner than later. I did not attend the DUR at the old mill because we had a meeting, but I did hear today that there was 35 to 40 people there. So that was a nice crowd, and they all seemed to really enjoy it. And Ken Bush is from Ortonville, and he did the presentation. He's a very, well, he's got a lot of history in his mind. Today he showed me a binder that he's going to share with the Citizen newspaper. You could buy packs of bubble gum, and you got baseball cards. Well, these were planet cards. It was all about the man on the moon, the first men on the moon. So I got to see that today. I know the Citizen's going to do an article. So other than that, please have a happy and safe 4th of July. We'll see you August 5th. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you. As far as the supervisor's report tonight, I wanted to also thank everyone for coming this evening. Like Dana said, our actuarial report came back, and that was as of the end of 2018. We went from 87% funded to 66% funded, and the biggest difference was from our investment income. And the report was also sent to the Retirement Oversight Committee members. And I believe I sent it, did I send it out to everyone?
No.
Okay. Well, then I'll send it out to the rest of the board. So you can take a look at it.
I'm sorry, it went from 87 to
87% to 66% funded.
That was because the market tanked last year?
I think that's part of it, but I'm not.
Part of it, or is it still to come, MERS is going to drop with their?
And that's, yeah.
That hasn't
happened
So
yet.
that's even gonna bring it.
That might bring it down more. yeah.
MERS is going to change, like every so often they change what interest rate they calculate for the future as you're calculating the future out. And because the market's not doing as well, they're gonna drop that percentage too.
For No Has, we had an event on June 22nd that I participated in, and we had 17 participants from Brandon Township that came. Our next collection is July 20th at the Oakland County Service Center campus, and I need a volunteer. I'm hoping from the board that will be able to work that event. I will not be able to get there that day. Okay, that's July, if you want to write it down, July 20th. And on June 22nd, we also had our township cleanup day, and we had 137 loads that came in, and I wanted to thank Scott Broughton for volunteering that morning, because I was at the No Has event, and I couldn't get there. But I was able to get there in the afternoon, and it was a good event, and followed up with the movie night and the tours of the passive side of the park, so it was a long day. Also, if there's anyone that wants a free estimate on getting their fried mighties treated, if you go on the township website, there's a couple contractors on there that you could get a hold of to have them come out and give you an estimate. And as Bob was saying, Sashbaugh Road is now closed through traffic today. And he already said that the detour was on Perry Lake Road, and they're hoping to finish that project this fall so that they can open it up. But in the meantime, it's gonna be another detour, just like all the rest that we have on Southeast Michigan. Just lots of detours. Also, Oakwood Road is gonna be resurfaced beginning this month, so mid-July. They're gonna start with that, and that will be completed by the end of August. And that's gonna be resurfaced from M15 to Lease Road. And there will be no road closures on that project, but there might be some delays with the flagman, so if you have an alternate route, you might want to plan that. And I'm looking forward to the 4th of July festivities, and the Ortonville fireworks again are on July 3rd. And they start at dusk, and as Jason said, there's food trucks available down at the high school. So everyone have a safe and enjoyable 4th.
Do you know if there's a rain date or no?
I don't know. I think so. I don't think they gave one.
Okay. Great. No, it doesn't look like it now, but they were calling.
Okay, so we can move on to our correspondence. Tonight we have a SMART report. We have an Ortonville Community Emergency Fund thank you letter. And we have our Brandon Groveland Youth Assistance update. Mr. MacArthur. We have Planning Commission meeting minutes of May 14, 2019, and Planning Commission meeting minutes of May 28, 2019. That's all our correspondence tonight. So at this time, we will take citizens' comments on agenda items. During citizens' comments, we ask that you stand at the podium and direct your comments to the board. We will be happy to answer any questions at the end of the meeting. Please state your name, and although it's not required, we also ask that you state the city, township, or village in which you live. Comments shall be courteous and limited to 3 minutes per speaker. So if anyone would like to speak on an agenda item, now is your opportunity. Yes.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Bella. I am a 3-year resident of Brandon Township with my husband and our 3 kids. I just wanted to come today to ask for an update on the ordinance. Currently, you can have in the animal ordinance one hooked animal on 2.5 acres of land. And I wanted to suggest changing it to be kind of where they split large hooked animals and small hooked animals. Currently, a 2,000-pound steer and a 50-pound goat would be considered the same on 2.5 acres. Some townships split it by large and small hooked animals, or large or hooked and split hooked animals. Currently, like Metamora Township, their ordinance allows 1 large hooked animal or 4 small hooked animals on 2.5 acres of land. And then there's also Addison Township and Alma Township. They allow 1 large hooked animal or 2 small hooked animals on each acre. Smaller hooked animals, they are smaller, they need less land to forage in. They don't have to eat as much as a goat, or a goat doesn't eat as much as a horse does. They also, so they have different needs there. Their manure is also different. They have pellet-sized manure, so it's not as smelly and it's easier to clean up, and it's just different from a horse or a cow. Goats are also companion animals. They need to have a friend, or they will scream and yell. So it's actually not suggested that they stay by themselves. So that will benefit them to stay in pairs. We also have Oakland County Fair members, like my children who are in the fair, who could really benefit from the ability to have 2 of my children have a goat and show them in the 4-H. There's always the option to keep animals on other property, but it is better for the children to raise them in their own backyard and be able to take that responsibility on every single day, not just on the weekend. And it'll help get our kids outside. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to citizens' comments on agenda items? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Susan Hagan. I'm a Brandon Township resident on Berry Lake Road. I'd just like to add a little bit to the 4-H situation. I moved here about 6 years ago, and with that, I had 3 children who kind of pulled me into 4-H, and we've shown everything from market animals to show animals, birds and cattle, and now goats. And I'd like to stress too, one thing about certain animals like sheep and goats is they cannot be with a horse. To them, that's being alone. They need to be 2 goats or 2 sheep. And we've had both, and they will scream. I've had sheep wake up in the middle of the field, not see their friends, and scream bloody murder until they found them, a few acres away. So I just would like to ask the board to really seriously consider making it a 2-animal situation. You just can't as an owner. You look at that ordinance and you go, I can't have goats because they have to be 2. 4-H, we're here at the heels, the beginning heels of the Oakland County Fair to tell you how important it is. My time is very limited. And it's important to these kids. And the Oakland County Fair won't take a single goat. The kid has to have 2 goats or a sibling bring a second goat because they won't pen them to get sold by themselves. So that is it's just nature. It's how they are. So thank you, and please consider for the kids and for the goat owners who love goats.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak during citizens' comments on agenda items? Since we have some unfamiliar faces here, how many are here supporting changing the animal ordinance? Just so we have an idea. Thank you. Okay. Okay, last call. Anyone else for any comments on the agenda items? All right. Seeing none, we can get into our discussion items tonight. And that's being presented by Trustee Marshall on ordinance revision.
Yeah, let me give the sort of the genesis how this came about. As much as I hate social media, I did see Tiffany's posting about our ordinance officer, or ordinance enforcement officer, sending Tiffany a letter saying that they had 2 goats, they had a complaint. She only has 2.8 acres, if I'm not mistaken, and that violated the current ordinance. So I did some checking. I had several conversations with Tiffany, and I said, well, is it possible that you could lease some property from a neighbor right next door? She said, let me check. So she got back with me, and she did make a lease agreement with her neighbor that would have provided her enough property to have 2 goats instead of the 1 as the ordinance stated. She submitted the lease to the planning board or planning department, and her lease request was refused. So I did some more checking. Now, I personally lease 11 acres, and when I first started leasing that property, I had contacted the township, said, listen, I need to have some clarification here. Does the lease property, is that included in how many animals I can have? And I was assured it did. So that was an inconsistency there that concerned me. I did some other checking, and I checked with some people that had miniature horses. For anybody that doesn't know what a miniature horse is, don't call them a pony. Miniature horse owners don't like that. They're horses. And a miniature horse can weigh 250 pounds. And the people I talked to had 2 miniature horses. And I said, well, have you ever had any complaints? And the response from both of them were, well, I was told by the ordinance officer that as long as nobody complained, it wasn't a problem. Again, inconsistent enforcement of the ordinance. So I got to thinking about it then, and I came up with some amendments. And I didn't want to be too drastic on the amendment changes to the ordinances, and I included them here, and I'll read them so that people know here what I'm talking about. Under Class 2 animals may be maintained subject to the following conditions. A, the minimum lot required to maintain Class 2 animals is 2.5 acres. My addition to that is acreage consideration shall include privately owned and/or leased property. End of the change for that. 1, I changed it to 2, Class 2 animals shall be permitted for the first 2.5 acres. This is my addition, provided their combined weight does not exceed 2,000 pounds. Therefore, 1 additional Class 2 animal shall be permitted for each full acre in excess of 2.5 acres. My inclusion then of another little addition to the ordinance is body weight to be determined by the formula heart girth times animal length divided by 300 plus 50, or other acceptable industry standards. That formula is used for horses, goats, pigs, cattle. It's pretty much across the board the way people figure out, average out what a weight for an animal is. My thinking on this, and I put this in the package for my suggestion here, is the current ordinance, the way it stands, does not differentiate between a draft horse and a mini. You could have a draft horse that weighs 2,000 pounds. You could have a mini that weighs 250 pounds. Inconsistent. So I understand what the problem with the ordinance is inconsistency in how it's interpreted and how it's enforced. And what I'm trying to do here is try to give some logical view of how to look at animals. I also included some sample ordinances that Tiffany had referred to: Elmont Township, Metamora Township, and Groveland. Addison? Okay, that was the other one. And I didn't put those down as an idea to copy. I put those down simply to show that other townships make a differentiation between different types of animals. The other part that I wanted to address was Class 3 animals. Minimum lot size, and this just basically mirrors what we're doing for Class 2 animals. Acreage consideration shall include privately owned and/or leased property. So, in essence, our ordinance, as I understand it, was to maintain, make sure we don't overuse land, make sure we don't have too many animals in a certain neighborhood. And instead of counting numbers, I think counting weight would be much more effective, because we could have, you have two dwarf goats together, they're going to weigh 100 pounds. Okay, that makes absolutely no sense to me that those will be prohibited, but you can have a 2,000-pound draft horse under the same ordinance. So the weight I think is the big thing. And even with the weight, we still are not going to allow more than 2 for 2.5 acres. It's just those 2 cannot exceed 2,000 pounds.
You want to go? Go ahead, and then I'll go.
Yeah, I just first want to say, I'm all in support of making a change to allow 2 goats to separate out the 2. I just have questions of how we're going to do it. So that's more my thing is, how are we going to go out and just weigh animals? So
Well,
that's part of my question. So I'm just wondering, like, what does Metamora and Addison do? Like, I don't see them weighing animals. I just see them saying the number.
Yes.
Right, but what they're doing is they're doing cloven hoof based on horse's hoof. So
Well,
they're separating
that's
out that way, and that still doesn't take into consideration the differences in
The
types
horse
of animals.
sizes?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so for instance, and I knew you were going to ask that question. I'm
Well,
sorry. Ask the question.
the number,
About
well,
the
that's
formula.
right, like, I mean, because I
So
like
if
the small.
if the ordinance enforcement officer looks out in the field, he sees 2 horses, he's gonna say, I don't know anything about horses, so how do I know what those things weigh? You go to the homeowner, he has a formula, excuse me, can you hold my horses, your horses, so I can make measurements?
And
It's
no.
not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
Why?
Because
They're
they're,
all moved.
It doesn't matter.
yeah, that's not gonna happen. I think we
So,
already know that.
hold on. So, because if he seeks to take action or seeks to take action, the onus is on him to prove that they're violating the 2,000-pound limit. It's not on the homeowners to say, hey, these 2 horses weigh less than 2,000 pounds. It's up to the ordinance officer to do it. And this is pretty much a standard. Like I said, this is fairly standard for, we've used this formula for years on on weighing, estimating the weight on an animal.
Can I ask you a question, Bob?
Yeah, so what you do is the heart girth is around the chest. Okay,
So,
and I was explaining the heart girth is around the chest, and the length goes from the mid-chest back to the hip. So it's heart girth times heart girth times the what's the official length of it?
Shoulder.
Yeah, animal length divided by 350 pounds.
Shoulder to rear.
Yeah.
I have a question. When were you told that the leased property was included in the number of horses you had?
Probably about 16 years ago when I started leasing the property.
When we had a different ordinance enforcement officer?
It could have been.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Well, here's-
and so we do have a problem with continuity of enforcing ordinances. But what you're suggesting, I don't think will work. For instance, what if our ordinance enforcement officer doesn't like animals and won't get close to them?
Yes, it goes to the commissioner.
Well, the other thing is too, the suggested ordinances that you put in, none of them cover anything about leased property.
Right.
And it's too hard to enforce lease agreements. Now, anyone can lease property for their animals and put their animals on that leased property, and then when the officer comes by, he can say, well, those animals belong with that property. So I don't think there's an issue with leasing.
Well, why
No,
would
I-
she vote no then? Why would she
But
vote
it-
no now? They
But
are
wait,
considering.
I'm not done.
Okay.
So, if, the problem is, with the leases, it's just gonna be opening up a can of worms for enforcement aspects, because how do we know that the person's not also leasing their property to someone else? And so what I'm saying is Tiffany really came up with the best solution that I liked. I think we need to separate into large and small and have two smalls and one large. Make it easier for the
What's the small?
enforcement.
What's the small?
Well, that's what we have
That's
to
what they got
decide.
here. They got sheep,
Because the
goats,
problem, like I
pigs,
said, the problem
similar.
with it is you could have a small potbelly pig.
Yeah.
You could have a full-size pig.
Wait, well, we would have to.
Huge differences. You
we
could
would-
have a miniature horse.
Right. So
Full-size
I
draft
went,
horse.
I went
Huge difference.
online and I looked at all the weights of all the animals that we list. And the cows are 1,000 to 1,800, horses 850 to 2,200. A pony is 500. A miniature horse, 150 to 350 pounds. Swine can be 300 to 500 pounds. Sheep, 100 to 350.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, my neighbor did have a sheep and a horse that were very good friends. And goats are 180 to 225. Llamas, 250 to 500. An emu, 40 pounds to 130 pounds. Ostrich, 140 to 320. And these are all the animals that we list. But before I go on, just so you know, this will have to go to the planning commission.
Right.
And they'll
I
have to
understand.
bring a recommendation to us, but I think it would just be way easier if we could, and we can make a recommendation on what should be included in small animals and which should be included in large animals. But I think for enforcement purposes,
And it's-
that would be much easier to enforce than to have somebody go out and measure
I
them.
The
agree
problem,
with-
go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I agree with you, Kathy, but also if the planning commission doesn't approve it, it can still come back to us like we have
Well, yeah.
dealt with the
Yes,
other
it can.
ordinance right now too.
So here's the way I see it. We're not allowing anything more than two animals per 2.5 acres. We're just restricting it by weight. So what you're saying is, well, we're gonna differentiate between small and large, and then somebody's gonna have to judge, well, is that a small horse or is that a large horse?
No, well, we're gonna list the animals that we consider large, under
Okay,
large, and
what's a horse?
And a
What's a-
large.
What's a
Horse
horse?
is already under large.
I know currently it is,
Yeah,
but is that a miniature horse?
maybe we put miniature
Is
horse
that a
horse
pony?
under small.
Well,
Is that-
she's got pony listed separate, so I
I-
would do miniature host and
okay,
pony
all right.
as small, And then
So
horses, regular horses.
you have a mare that has a foal. You now have 2 horses on your property.
Yeah, one's a large, one's a small. All grown up.
And wait,
So you would be in violation because you have something more than one horse.
right, but if you put a weight limit on it, a maximum 2 with a weight limit, they're both fine.
But no one's gonna go out there and measure the horses.
Yeah, give me a call. I'll go out and I'll measure the horses.
Can I suggest something? Our vet is.
I'm sorry, this is a discussion of the board, and I'm so sorry.
But I could be.
Okay, so going back to the enforcement issues you see, is nobody's gonna go out there and weigh. Again, if they're gonna take action, it is at the township's responsibility to prove that the animals weigh too much. But, so if they can't do it themselves, call a vet.
Who's gonna pay for the vet to come out?
Township wants to take action, the township pays for the vet.
I don't think that's in the best interest of the township. And in addition.
In your opinion.
In addition, that is my opinion, and that's your stating your opinion.
Right.
But we have to look at all of our residents, and these ordinances are in place for all of our residents, not just those that like animals, but also those that don't like animals. So we have to be fair to everybody, and our ordinance enforcement officer has a lot to do. They don't need more work to do. And as far as 4-H animals, nobody has ever been not allowed to raise 4-H animals because, number one, there's a process. If someone calls and complains about 4-H animals, there's a process where most of those animals go to fair, they don't come back. And so if the homeowner says, we're in the process of getting rid of the extra animals, then it's not going to be an issue for the ordinance enforcement officer because there's a plan in place for those animals to leave.
Is that in the ordinance?
It's not in the ordinance.
They're
But
saying
there's
consistent
a
enforcement.
But there is a process for enforcing the ordinance, and it takes usually 2 to 3 months, it seems.
And I'm a little perplexed that you would not consider leased property to be included in the formula, in the workup. Why wouldn't you?
Because why didn't they in these other ordinances that you submitted to us?
I don't know.
It wasn't-
That's not my concern. My concern is Brandon Township.
I'm just saying, the leases can be problematic. They can still lease, have their animals on the leased property.
But then you're restricted.
When you go by and you see the animals on the other property, the animals look like they belong to the other property.
But if you do that, then you're restricted by, say, 2.5 acres.
Well, then.
I can only have
So-
one animal, even though I'm leasing 25 acres. That makes no sense.
Maybe if they could lease them, then why did this not come up if they decided to lease and then they couldn't lease? Because now you're saying they can lease, so why didn't that just drop them off the lease? But I still make this change though, but.
It depends where the animals are housed at the time that they come out.
But then she fixed the complaint though. You said as long, just like with 4-H, they fixed the complaint because the animals ended up gone. So with the leash, she was fixing the complaint. So I don't see why that was then still continued on because she fixed the, you're saying with 4-H, you let it go because the complaint will be gone in a few weeks when fair's over. So just like her complaint would have been gone once the lease went through, but then they didn't let the lease go through. You're saying you guys are stopping the lease.
But you didn't see the lease. The lease was denied because of the way it was written.
Okay. But I still want to make the change anyways, but I'm just saying that.
And that gets into some issues, and maybe that's something our attorney will have to chime in on.
Let me address also the lease issue about where the animals are staying. If you know anything about pasture maintenance and land maintenance, you rotate your pastures, right? So one pasture doesn't get beaten down. So if I am leasing 20 acres, I am allowed to have 19 horses on 20 acres. Those 19 horses are not always going to be on the leased property. Sometimes they'll be on my own property. Sometimes they'll be on the leased property. Because you have to rotate your property, you have to rotate your pastures, otherwise your pastures get absolutely decimated. So they're not always going to be on your own property. That's the reality of raising animals.
I have a little problem about an anonymous call can come in and make a complaint about animals, but if I want to make a complaint about the fireworks that happen in my neighbor's yard, I can't do that without giving my name. I just don't think that's right. If you're gonna make a complaint, you should be able to give your name and be addressed as such, not just anybody can call.
Or all complaints can be anonymous then.
It could be
One
someone
can
that
be, then
drives
one shouldn't
by
be.
and says, well, I think they got too many animals, but I don't have to give my name. I just don't think that's right.
Who are you calling to make your fireworks complaint to? The police. Right. Who are you calling to make your animal complaint to?
Nobody. I think we need more animals.
Oh, why should it matter? Why should it matter who you're calling to complain to? Just because we're taking,
You're calling two different.
we're taking enforcement action, whether it's the police department or it's an ordinance
The
officer.
police
We're
department
taking
has different
enforcement
rules
action.
than the.
They work for us. They
They're
work for us.
contracted. They have
If
their
you're
own
making a
rules.
complaint, either one, let's have some consistency.
Anybody else have a comment on this? And at the same time?
You saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't see there's any problem having two, so I think this whole thing needs to be revised. I don't care either way. I think the lease property should be counted too. I think Bob's right. I don't see why it shouldn't be. So, I mean, luckily I don't have that problem with my property, but I got a problem.
Don't you?
Had
Yeah,
several.
you
Yeah, I figured that figures, but it should be restricted, especially for the 4-H stuff, for all the kids that raise those. I don't care if it's 2 months or 3 months or a year or next year when they take them, I don't care. I think 2 is fine. So however we gotta do to have 2 animals, let's do that.
I think the easiest way is the small and the large.
But then you're getting the debate, which is a small, and which is a large.
We can list them out.
No, you're listening.
What's, okay, so I have a 800-pound horse. Is that large or is that small?
Large.
Why? It's not a 2,200-pound horse,
You called it a horse.
but there's also a miniature horse. So
You
that's,
got
so
it.
you start getting into this thing about what's small and what's large. Then you're saying, okay.
I think
you have
we
to-
just have to list them under
A miniature,
category.
a miniature horse goes
There was
to
no
small.
complaint.
I think the weight is the far easiest way to do it, though.
So what's too heavy?
Anything over 2,000 pounds,
2,000, I think it's too heavy.
that's one draft horse. But right now, they can have one 2,000-pound horse.
Well, they could, yeah.
So that's why Blade listed it at 2,000 pounds. And you still can't have more than 2 if you have a 2,000-pound horse. You can only have 1.
So a homeowner in Brandon could have 10 goats on their 2.5 acres, and if no one complains,
no.
nothing happens.
No, it's still 2.
No, I'm saying,
Well, right now.
if no one's calling and
Right now.
complaining, you can have.
But with the amendments I'm suggesting, you could have 2. But you're limited to 2,000 pounds, but you have 2 goats.
But if somebody in my neighborhood has 10 goats and no one complains.
Oh,
they
yeah,
get to
right,
keep
the
their
way it
10
is right
goats.
now,
That's what
yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah, the way it is now, yeah, which is.
If the
it's
complaint comes
ludicrous.
in, you're looked at, and if it doesn't, you're not.
Yeah, right. It's inconsistent enforcement.
That's because it's complaint-based.
But it's inconsistent
Well,
enforcement.
then we need to find more money and have an ordinance.
No, I don't need
officer
somebody
able to
driving
go
around.
Driving up and down.
We don't need
the roads,
animals.
looking for people
Nobody
that
wants
are
that.
violating.
No, we are not.
No, we don't want to.
That's silly.
Then you guys make it
Not paying for people to go around and find our residents.
That's why it's complaint-based.
So my recommendation is that we have, Stuart, you're gonna love me. Do we have Stuart write up a proposed ordinance with my suggestions, and I'm sticking with the 2,000 pound, and still limiting it to animals. And then that's presented to the planning board, make a decision on it, and it comes back to us. That's what I'd like
What
to
does
recommend.
everybody think of Bob's suggestion? I think 2,000 is too much. I think it'd be a lot easier if we separated it into small and large and listed the kinds, the breeds.
I
Make it easier.
agree
I
with
think that would be
Kathy.
easier.
I don't see anybody weighing, and I don't see, I mean, some horses, some animals are not gonna like a stranger coming up to them and trying to weigh them.
It's not like you're gonna walk out in the middle of the field and say, here, let me measure you, Mr. Horse.
Well, that's what you're saying you need to do.
I'll tell you
But-
that.
No, let me explain it to you again. So the ordinance officer looks out in the field, sees two horses, right? He looks at them and says, huh, I wonder if they weigh over 2,000 pounds. He goes to the homeowner. Mr. Homeowner, you know, we have this sort. Don't get me started on our ordinance officer. Mr. Homeowner, we have two horses out here. We have a limit of 2,000 pounds. Do you know if your horses are less than 2,000 pounds? Well, one's a mini and one's a very small 800-pound mare. Yeah, they're less than 2,000 pounds. Okay, thanks. Or you have two horses out there. Both of them are draft horses. Do you know if they're less than 2,000 pounds? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are. How about we measure them?
How do you know the homeowner is even home? It's not gonna work.
Maybe we should just
I
send it
think
to
the
the
majority of the
board.
board is in agreement of.
What if we go to the planning commission, have the planning commission
Look at it.
look at it, decide between the two ways, because, and see what the planning commission
They
says.
might have a little more due diligence involved.
Until that's done, I say we waive this ordinance so that
She doesn't really know.
Tiffany doesn't have to get rid of her goats.
Can't do
Well, apparently we can, because we
You
have
waive it for
homeowners out there with
4-H.
two minis
You waive-
that can't do it according to the ordinance.
And you waive it for 4-H people.
Apparently we can do it, because unless there's a complaint, but we can't, we're not gonna talk about it.
We can't take any action on a discussion item.
Okay, well, how about we just say we don't, we just let it sit there for a little bit till planning commission and us get this through.
Speaking for the planning commission, that I'm on the planning commission, the planning commission is going to struggle with this just as we've been struggling with this. Small versus large, what's the best way to go? I'm not sure, but it's something that the planning commission's got to take on. I'm not sure we're gonna have a quick remedy, you know.
Do you know when your next meeting is, so
Well,
the people can know?
It's next, sometime next month.
We need to provide them a recommendation
Yeah,
to
why
support
don't
yourself.
you
We
make
can't
a
just send it to them with
recommendation,
nothing.
and I'll make a recommendation and make them look at both and go.
Yeah,
from there.
that's,
All right, my
that's,
recommend-
Do we know when their next meeting is, so the residents can know when? they meet
I don't
everyone?
know, because they don't always meet if they don't have enough.
We're gonna have something for this
Isn't it?
meeting.
Correct. I think it's
I
the
don't,
second.
I don't, yeah, we don't
Is
announce.
it the second and fourth Tuesday?
It's usually the second and fourth Tuesday.
Okay, well, I'd like to see something get to them so they can meet July 9th, if it's not too late.
July
It's
9th.
already
Oh,
too-
no, they
too
have
late
those
for this
two.
week.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
too
too
late.
late, it's gonna have to be.
So it'd be the 23rd.
So it'll be the 20, no, it'll be the 16th. Oh, no, the 2nd and the 4th, so it'll be the 23rd.
July second and fourth Tuesday. So it's going to have to be the 23rd.
And then once they meet on the 23rd, if they bring something to us, we're not meeting till the 5th. And to change an ordinance, how many meetings do we have to do that? Because don't you have to have 2 meetings? So that means that's August 5th, which then our next meeting isn't until, is it the day after Labor Day, like what we do? So then that's September 3rd.
And the
That's-
fair is next week, this week.
That's 2
Friday.
months away, and you're gonna,
Listen, if you look at our ordinance, it said something about, are pygmy goats involved in this?
No, but they're not differentiated out from regular goats.
No, I mean the complaint that came in.
I don't know what kind of goats they are.
and
Are they, do you know, are they less than 75 pounds?
Well, I don't think they're giant goats. 'cause that's-
Yeah, you said they were 50.
They're little babies, little.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Because
We
we
could
have
technically
something-
put them as class 3, but it says only if not otherwise named. But
Yeah.
because, but we named them in 2, So you'd have to remove
Right,
them from
so
two.
the class, I mean,
So I look at that too,
technically
you
for
can't
the
do that.
class 3.
No, you can't.
They're not because they're named
Two F
elsewhere.
Their name?
says, two F says other animals similar to
Their
those
name?
listed in
Okay.
2A2E.
And
Of
they're
this class
listed.
2 category weighing in excess of 75 pounds are not otherwise specifically classified here. Well, but that's saying in excess.
In excess of.
No,
Okay.
But class 3 says, included in class 3 are animals weighing less than 75, not otherwise specifically classified herein.
which they are because
Which
They are.
in 2D
So that's
they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. and
So
then-
that's two.
So if I may ask a question, Tiffany, are you appealing the decision of the planning board on the
They
leased property?
actually are revisiting it right now.
But you're appealing their decision,
I didn't even have to appeal, I asked them if they would revisit it because I
but
knew
you're going
someone
to
else
appeal their
had done it.
decision.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. So if they're,
To
if
the
it's still,
planning commission?
if it's still an appeal process going on, are we going to force them to get rid of the animals even though it's an appeal?
No.
Because we don't know the result of the appeal.
We can't. We can't do that.
Appeal to the planning commission?
She was refused on her lease.
Not from the planning commission.
Girl with the
They didn't even
office over here.
see the lease, actually. They never got the lease. They just asked for it when I asked them to revisit it. So they never asked for it in the
It was
beginning.
the way the lease was written, and it just needs to be more specific. And that's what
Is somebody else on with that? To make it more specific?
Who's
Yeah,
that,
it
the
could be
ordinance?
2 months before the ordinance changes.
That's who refused it, yeah.
Oh.
I don't think.
2 or 3 meetings.
I know, but other people are.
If she continues to work with the
And if you're
building
giving her a
department,
good employee.
they're not gonna have her do anything until it's resolved.
Now, the ordinance officer works for the building department.
The ordinance officer
Bill.
is the
Bill.
building.
Right, inspector.
Okay. Okay. Who's asked for clarification? Just find
Well, I'm not
out.
sure, I'm not sure she talked to Bill, though. I think she talked to Brenda. Oh, Stacy, okay.
All right.
So my recommendation is that we send it to the planning commission exactly as I have amended, with the acreage consideration for lease and/or owned property, and the weight classifications, and not to exceed 2 animals for 2.5 acres.
And then I'll write something up and we'll send that to them.
Can we get copies of that?
Sure.
So we're gonna have 2 proposals coming to the planning commission. Very good. That makes it a whole lot easier.
And mine will probably be similar to the one that has small and large, whichever the sample was. Just for a heads up. Okay, so does that complete our discussion, or does anybody have?
One other question. What's your take on the lease? Are you still sticking with lease property is not going to be considered?
It's not in any of the other 3 ordinances.
We're not writing any, and I stated this is not for.
I don't know, I haven't made a final decision. I will probably have a discussion with our attorney.
Okay.
No, you're talking, you include leased in your.
Right, yeah.
Okay. And Supervisor Thurman.
Okay.
She's not sure. Okay.
So, that brings us to our consent agenda this evening. And on our consent agenda, we have our regular meeting minutes of June 3rd, 2019, special meeting minutes of June 20th, 2019, regular bills in the amount of $341,893.33, prepays in the amount of $395,971.08, Township benefits from payroll account of $28,742.78, and trustee timesheets in the amount of $918.
Chris, you're doing yours next month, or there's no time on it?
Yeah, I fall asleep at the wheel.
Okay, so you're gonna turn it in?
Don't be honest with you, I mean, it was one of those things where it was like, my God.
Forgot to turn it in.
July is coming up, and it was like, that was Thursday when I realized that.
Okay, so you're just gonna turn it in next month?
Yeah,
Okay.
Amber does.
We used to have a trustee who did it every 3 months.
Really?
Yes, and according to our policy,
Yeah.
if it's not on the consent agenda, we don't adjust.
Right, I was just gonna.
Everybody has
Yes.
5 days to get it to us.
Absolutely.
But you will be paid.
I know.
I just wanted to say too.
I'm not worried about it.
We're not withholding money.
I just wanted to say too, if anybody noticed, I said I was at the Parks and Rec subcommittee meeting, and it's not on my time, it's because it was after the due date, and I wasn't sure at that time that I was gonna make it to the meeting, so I know that one will come on July, and I was okay with that. I just wanted everyone to know why I didn't make it in time, because due date was Wednesday, and meeting was Friday, and wasn't sure I could make the meeting or not yet.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion by trustee Cordella, and it is seconded by trustee Rumpel to approve the consent agenda as presented. Roll call, please.
Darnell?
Yes.
DePalma?
Yes.
Cordella?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Rumble?
Yes.
Allen? Yes. Thurman?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. So now we can move on to new business since we have no unfinished business. And we amended our new business so that the first item is closed session to discuss attorney opinion on text of proposed revocation in the Flat Rock versus Charter Township of Brandon litigation. So we need a motion to move to closed session.
So moved.
Support. So I have a motion by trustee Rumball, and I have it seconded by treasurer Darnell. And that is, and we need this spelled out in the minutes, to move to closed session to discuss attorney opinion on text of proposed revocation in the Flat Rock versus Charter Township litigation. Okay, did we have discussion before we vote?
We haven't.
Did you want to say something before we vote?
I just was gonna ask if we could get it, you know, it looks like you have that handwritten, is that correct?
That's what she added to the agenda.
Yeah, I know, but I would like to get a copy of that somehow, but I guess I won't be able to until after the meeting. Is that correct?
Of the.
Oh, why we're meeting in closed session.
Oh,
I wasn't able to like write all that down real fast. Sorry.
Attorney opinion.
Okay.
We're gonna.
Good enough.
View it.
We'll discuss it in closed session. Good enough, good enough.
Okay.
I just was hoping that maybe you could make a copy and give it to me.
I just wanted to say that I'm not too, the residents didn't know that this was happening, so I'm not a little concerned about doing this without them knowing ahead of time because it wasn't on our agenda that was posted, that's all. Especially if you knew that this was happening last week before the agenda came out. Because you said it was after we got the email last week, so.
Okay. We'll have to do a roll call, please.
Cordella?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Rumble?
Yes.
Allen? Yes. Darnell?
Yes.
DePalma?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes. So at this time, we will move to closed session.
Pizza's on cat.
All right.
Time limit.
You ready? Okay, at this time, we need a motion to reconvene our meeting.
So moved. Sorry.
Okay. Who was first? Trustee DePalma made a motion to reconvene the meeting, and it was seconded by trustee Cordella. Is there any discussion? Probably not. Roll call, please.
Marshall?
Yes.
Rumble?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Darnell?
Yes.
DePalma?
Yes.
Cordella?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes. Motion carries unanimously. And so at this time, we need to approve our closed session minutes as were read in closed session. So who would like to make a motion to approve the closed session minutes that were read in closed session?
Second.
I have a motion by trustee Marshall, and it was seconded by trustee Cordella to approve the closed session minutes that were read in closed session. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Rumble?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Darnell?
Yes.
DePalma?
Yes.
Cordella?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes, motion carries unanimously. So now we will take up our next item of business, which is adult foster care homes 500-foot separation ordinance amendment. And Mr. Wilhelm is going
Madam Supervisor Board, so I'm Tim Wilhelm from Rosati Schultz. I'm representing the township in the litigation filed by Flat Rock Manor against Brandon, Charter Township of Brandon. Tonight, you're being presented with the first reading of a zoning ordinance amendment to amend the permitted uses in the rural estates in the R1, A, and B districts to remove the AFC spacing requirement. On June 20, the board approved a consent judgment. One of the terms of that consent judgment was plaintiff conditioning its approval of that consent judgment and allowing for the entry of it on the elimination of that AFC spacing requirement, which is the basis of their legal claims against the township. This is the first reading you're being presented with. This process has been started. The board referred this ordinance to the Planning Commission. They held a public hearing on May 28th. They recommended denial. However, this is now for action before the board. It would require 2 readings. This is the first, and it just eliminates the AFC spacing requirement and identifies as permitted uses the definition from the Zoning Enabling Act that refers to state residential licensed facilities for 1 to 6 people for 24-hour care, which is includes the small group AFC homes. Are there any questions?
Anyone have questions? Thank you for your
Thank you.
Okay. Would someone like to make one of the suggested motions? Which one are you doing?
We'll start with the first one.
And I've got my papers mixed up, sorry. So I'm not sure if this is,
It's 46204B3 is the first one.
B3 is, okay.
204 is what makes it different, because it's 204 and
Yes.
205.
Yeah.
Well, and then B3 and
Right.
B2.
Right.
Right, okay, so we're doing 204 B3?
B3,
then?
correct, yes.
Okay. And who would like to second that motion?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by trustee Marshall, and it is seconded by trustee Cordella to introduce for first reading an amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 46, Article 3, Section 46-204B3 to read, state licensed residential facilities restricted to structures constructed for residential purposes that are licensed by the state under the Adult Foster Care Facility Licensing Act 1979, PA 218 MCL 400.701 to 400.737, or 1973 PA 116 MCL 722.111 to 722.128, and provide residential services for 6 or fewer individuals under 24-hour supervision or care. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Allen?
Yes.
Darnell?
Yes.
DePalma?
No.
Cordella?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Rumble?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes, motion carries. And now we are going to move on to 205B2.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion by trustee Marshall, and it is seconded by trustee Rumble to introduce for first reading an amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 46, Article 3, Section 46205B2, to read state licensed residential facilities restricted to structures constructed for residential purposes that are licensed by the state under the Adult Foster Care Facility Licensing Act, 1979, PA 218, MCL 400.701 to 400.737, or 1973, PA 116, MCL 722.11 to 722.128, and provide residential services for 6 or fewer individuals under 24-hour supervision or care. Any questions on this motion? Okay, seeing none, roll call please.
Darnell?
Yes.
DePalma?
No.
Cordella?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Rumble?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes, motion carries. And we can move on to our next item, and that is an offer to purchase Township owned property.
I'll make the motion to refuse the offer to purchase vacant lot 0321409-057 for $500 from Courtney Toppin and Hunter Long.
Support.
I can see this meeting's gonna go pretty fast. I mean, from here. Okay, I have a motion by trustee DePalma, and it is seconded by trustee Marshall to refuse the offer to purchase vacant lot 0321409-057 for $500 from Courtney Toppin and Hunter Long.
What, how
Any
much property
discussion?
is this? I don't see.
It's,
It says 100 feet of road frontage, but.
yeah, it's a lot.
So is it just one of the ones that we
Look-
get
look
and
on
then
the
if we
very-
sell, I see,
look
I'm
on the
looking at
very
it.
Yeah, it's the one that we get.
So if we get it, but if we sell it, we gotta give the money to county anyway, right?
No,
I thought we did,
No,
we got it at tax foreclosure.
We'll get the taxes. We put it back on the tax roll.
Gotcha.
I think, no, if we,
I
this,
thought if we
okay,
bought it and then we sold it,
If-
we had to give them the money that we sold
yeah,
it for.
but we didn't. This was just
Given.
given to us.
Gotcha. They really think that's worth $30,000? Are you serious?
Well, there's a big difference between that number and that number.
Well, of course, yeah, I mean, if I agree with
And
you,
I
but
think there's a lot of negotiation.
I think
Yeah, I
30,000 is a little silly.
Well, yeah, but the 4,500 is what I was looking at. I mean, last year, we counted at 15 and they keep going down.
Last year was a different piece of property.
Yeah, that was good.
Have we
Probably
ever
different
sold that?
purchasers,
We've
too,
not
right?
sold that.
Oh,
No,
Yeah, that's
and so what I'll do is I'll list all of these with a realtor.
okay. I didn't realize it was a different, because it just said last year, it didn't, oh, I'm done with it, yeah. This one's done.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 500 is not gonna get it done, but
No,
I
Yeah,
also
we're
think,
not
I also
saying
think
no.
30,000 is
Right.
obnoxious.
I wasn't looking
Right,
right,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's
No. But at least then we can compromise.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, roll call please.
DePalma?
yes.
Cordella?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Rumble?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Darnell?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes, motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to the first item, election committee appointments.
That's really hard.
I'll make that motion to appoint trustee Chris Cordella to Charter Township of Brandon Election Commission term expiring November 20th, 2020, and to appoint trustee Jason Rumble to the Charter Township of Brandon Election Commission term expiring November 20th, 2020.
Who would like to second?
Support.
Is that you, Bob?
Yeah.
Were they both okay with it?
Yes.
Okay, that's my only question.
Yeah, I thought I should ask. Well, Kristen can ask, he was already on it.
Well, yeah, but sometimes you don't want to always stay on the same thing,
Right, right.
so I wanted to ask.
And the county wants you to appoint them separately.
Yes.
So
Did I need two motions there?
No,
No.
just you did two different things.
Gotcha.
Any other discussion? All right, I have a motion by trustee DePalma, and it is seconded by trustee Marshall to appoint trustee Chris Cordella to the Charter Township of Brandon Election Commission, term expiring November 20th, 2020, and to appoint Jason Rumble to the Charter Township of Brandon Election Commission, term expiring November 20th, 2020. And just the county one, roll call.
Yes, please.
Roll call, please.
Cordella?
Yes.
Marshall?
Yes.
Rumble?
Yes.
Allen?
Yes.
Darnell?
Yes?
DePalma?
Yes.
Thurman?
Yes, motion carries unanimously. That brings us to our last item, the fireworks permit.
I'll make the motion.
I'll support it.
I have a motion by trustee Rumble and it is seconded by trustee DePalma to approve the 2019 permit for fireworks for the Friends of Amos as presented. Is there any discussion?
A real quick question. Does anyone know where Colin is?
Colin? Yeah.
Yeah, that's up more somewhere.
Yeah, Colin.
Is that more somewhere?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's in Michigan.
It's by Bay City.
Yeah.
Google it.
very good. Just wondering. Wonder if it was in the UP.
Okay, any other discussion?
No.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. That concludes our new business. We now have time for citizens' comments on anything, and we have citizens here, so yes, sir, come on up.
Rick Gibbons, Sashball Road. I have a problem. I have no animals, okay? I agree with Bob here 100%. You have to have a standardized method for measuring the animal. And if you hire an ordinance guy and he won't do his job, fire him. If your building inspector won't go up on a roof and look at the roof, what's that? He's not doing his job. Fire him. You guys are paying these guys, what the hell? Make them enforce their ordinance. I'm just wound up because you pay the guy. Make him do the job. You can't say it's small animal, big animal. I got 2 big dogs. I got 2 small dogs. Whose interpretation is it? It could be up to anybody. You know, you can get somebody, the owner can measure the animal and the guy can sit there with a clipboard and write it down. It isn't that hard. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just me. Oops, got caught on the chair.
Say where you're from.
Got it, right. Judith tomorrow, Brandon Township. I came here to support my friend Tiffany. Being an animal lover, she came up to me and said, would I please come to the township meeting in regards to this goat issue? So listening to what the board had to say, it seems like an ordinance is going to go forward in her benefit, where she can keep her 2 goats. But as far as the comments that I listened to between all of the members up here on the board, Bob did the most research. I really appreciate his in-depth study of it. I think that there should be a measurement, not just how many, not just large or small. You can do an estimate, a guess estimate. If a cow weighs 2,000 pounds, assume every cow is going to weigh 2,000 pounds. If a goat weighs 75, assume every goat's going to weigh 75. You shouldn't have to get out there and measure the animal. We live in Brandon Township. We are somewhat of a farming community, a nature area. And pets need to have friends. They can't live by themselves. They have to have friends. And if it's part of a 4-H program, there should be a stipulation. This is a 4-H program. Each child that is in 4-H should be able to have some type of animal that follows an ordinance. And if you go with the measurement, Tiffany's family should be able to have 3 goats, 1 for each child, because they only weigh 75 pounds. The pasture's big enough for them. And my biggest point is, I've lived in Brandon Township practically 40 years. The lot size is mostly 2.5 acres. We're proud of that. We're proud of the fact that we don't live on top of our neighbors. But it's 2.5, it's not 3, that's not 4. Those 6-acre plots, they're rare. I have a neighbor that has 6. That neighbor had 2 horses. That neighbor left their 2 horses in less than a 2-acre area, never shifting those horses. I had no problem. I lived with horseflies. I had no problems. So there needs to be an ordinance, a standard, but without a neighborhood complaint, and I agree with Candy, nothing should be, what is it? Anonymous. In the Citizen, you used to be able to write a letter, anonymous. You can't do that anymore. You have to have a name to it. So less people complain because they want to put their name to it. The issue really here is, let's satisfy Tiffany's request. She's going above by coming to the board and saying, let's fix this ordinance. It doesn't work. She hasn't been complained on. But she wants to make sure that everything is on the up and up. And something's going to be done. It will benefit her. I totally support Bob's knowledge of reviewing the situation and going between 2 horses, 2 cows, 4 billy goats. It's our community. To be a community, we have to work together. It's not just one person's opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else? Yes, ma'am, come on up.
What I'm kind of afraid of is that sometimes oh, sorry. It's Hagan again, at Brandon Township. What I'm kind of afraid of is that a new ordinance is going to get muddy water with this whole weight thing. It's going to bog it down and it's going to make it not move. I'll tell you what, I never was a goat owner until my daughter says, I want to show goats. So what did I do? I got on the internet. Okay, what small size goat do we have? Oh, Nigerian dwarfs. Males average about 50 pounds. Females average about 40. I just found my weight scale. All right, I went in there and I put in Boer goats because she wanted to do meat goats this year. Males weigh about 175 pounds. Females are about 150. Verified by the Cook's Dairy vet who came out, looked it up and went, 150. Gave it a shot. So vets don't need to weigh scales. They just look at an animal. I didn't need a weight scale. I went on the internet, great technology. I learned everything I needed to know about that particular breed. If you have somebody who has a very large horse, put it in the computer. What's the average size for the male that horse? You'll find it. Don't need a scale, don't need anything, don't need a vet. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, is there anyone else that would like to make a comment this evening? Yes, sir.
It's not about animals, though.
I sit down.
You can't
talk. My name is Jay Taylor. I moved to Brandon Township last fall, so I'm a newbie here. But what I wanted to talk about was something that really impacts all of us as residents, but more broadly than that, it impacts really everybody in the state of Michigan. And that is a lawsuit that was filed by our Attorney General in Lansing to shut down this Line 5 Enbridge oil and gas pipeline under the Straits of Mackinac. So why are you talking about that here? Who cares about that? Well, I can tell you if the Attorney General is successful with this, all of your energy costs of all types are going to go up. Something like 65% of all the propane comes from that pipeline. Something like over half of the propane use in northern Michigan comes from that pipeline. And it's kind of being attacked because it's a political issue. And the prior governor had worked out a deal with Enbridge where they're going to decommission the existing pipeline and put a new pipeline under the ground in a secure tunnel. And I just wanted to ask the Brandon Township Board to support a resolution letting the state of Michigan know that you're behind the residents of Brandon Township as opposed to this lawsuit that the Attorney General has filed. And for your information, if you're not familiar with issue, I'd like to give you something.
You read my mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think, by even thinking about this issue, I think you're on the front end of the issue with townships, cities, and counties across the state. There's a lot of concern about what would happen if this pipeline is shut down. And what this language, I'm not a lawyer. I used to, I was in charge of strategic risk management for General Motors when I left that a couple of years ago. And I actually met with the Vice President of Enbridge in 2017 to talk about risk around that pipeline. And although it's 60 years old and people worry that pipes wear out over time, which they do, that pipeline's actually in pretty good shape. And so if we go a number of years, it'll give us time to put a new pipeline under the straits. I have no dog in this fight. I'm just a resident. I don't care one way or the other. What I do care about is that we continue to have the energy supply we need. You'll see in this draft resolution here, 540,000 barrels per day of propane and oil come through the pipeline. If she's successful in tearing this out or shutting it down, the bottom of this page, it talks about 2,150 tanker trucks, where 90 every hour would have to leave to come into Michigan to provide the same amount of fuel, or 800 rail cars each day. So I'm not sure why she's doing what she's doing. So I'm asking the board to make a statement on behalf of us, and then all across Michigan, this kind of statement will be made at the township, city, and hopefully county levels. So with that, thank you very much, and I hope you consider this.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make this? Sure.
I actually forgot to pass something out. Can I do that, or do I just speak first? I don't know.
You just spoke, so go ahead and pass it on.
Are those the ordinances?
No,
Oh.
this is, Marissa Price wrote
Oh.
a letter, and she's the only one, so. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment this evening? Okay, seeing none, we now have time for board's comments. So we'll start on this side with Mr. Rummel.
I have nothing further tonight.
Okay. Mr. Palmer?
I have nothing further, but happy 4th of July, everyone.
Thank you.
And I have nothing. Happy 4th of July. And Clerk Allen.
Happy 4th of July, be safe.
Trustee Marshall.
Happy 4th of July. I hope everybody has a safe one. Please use fireworks responsibly. Keep in mind your neighbors, vets, meaning veterans, and animals that take offense by the fireworks. So be responsible.
Mr. Cordella.
I ditto every word that Marshall said.
Okay, so that concludes our board comments, and now it's time to adjourn our meeting. Who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
So,
I'm sorry, was that?
so moved.
Yep. And who would like to second?
I heard like
Just pick one.
Okay, I have a motion by trustee Cordella, and it is seconded by trustee DePalma to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting's adjourned.